All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, the main way that we can determine greatness in life, not just in sports, but in life overall, is how somebody conducts themselves and is able to transcend when there is a clear intent to try to stop them from being successful. And like I always state, that's why I like to go over and cover sports, because sports is truly a microcosm of the human condition. In their first seasons in the NBA, Donovan Mitchell and Jason Tatum, they were very impactful. But now coming into their second season, there are expectations that they are going to have to meet with or fulfill. And if they come up short, that's where the pressure comes in. Are they going to be a bust? Because that moniker of bust is going to follow many of these young prospective stars or superstars until they can show and prove year after year that they can meet up with any and all expectations and that they're able to conquer the defensive game plans of the opposing team that they're facing. I'm already on record as stating that, to me, Jason Tatum has been one of the more overly ballyhooed and overly hyped players in the league coming off of last year. I thought that he had a very up and down rookie season in the regular season. He started off very fast, then he disappeared for a while after he hit the rookie wall. Then he reemerged, and he was very, very good in the playoffs for them. But he was nowhere near dominant. Like, they were trying to act like this guy's going to be the new Alex English or somebody like that, and it was getting to be annoying. As of right now, he's playing decent. But it's obvious that he's trying to utilize a lot of the offensive tactics that he learned from Kobe Bean Bryant. And that style of play is oftentimes not conducive to being particularly successful in this modern NBA. So I think that that is hurting him. I also think that the utilization of Mr. Gordon Hayward back into the team's overall offensive flow is hurting him. Now, when we go to Donovan Mitchell, in my view, Donovan Mitchell is a player who's playing outside of his proper position. In the NBA, to me, he has to play the point guard. He's just too small to be expected to be a shooting guard in the NBA. Now, he's about 6'2", or 6'2"-ish. But because he has about a 42-inch vertical, it makes him seem bigger than he is because he plays bigger out on the floor than what he is because of his vertical. But in my view, the Utah Jazz should be looking to find a way to move him to the point guard, bring in a real shooting guard, and then have Ricky Rubio be the third guard off the bench who can play both the 1 and the 2. Very similar to the Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Vinnie Johnson setup that the Pistons had back in the day. That's what they need to do. But anyway, Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman are going to cover the quote-unquote sophomore slump of both of those players, as well as Mr. Markelle Fultz, who we cannot even really say is going through a sophomore slump because he would have to have played well at some point to be going through a slump. So they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Max, what concerns you most about these guys?
We got to separate Markelle Fultz from the others.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about Markelle Fultz. He doesn't deserve. Like, it's nothing against Markelle Fultz. He's the number 1 overall pick.
It was just because he was in the draft class we added it.
Got it, but like,
okay.
He hasn't earned.
Tatum
and
Mitchell.
Earned the right to be discussed with the other two.
We're talking Tatum and Mitchell.
Jason Tatum. Let's start there.
Mm-hmm.
He is acclimating himself. Like, the Celtics have to integrate Gordon Hayward. He's never played with the team before. He got hurt in the preseason last year.
Just looking down at Jason Tatum's numbers, he's averaging more points per game than he averaged last year, I believe. And his rebounds is almost 7 per game, which is very good. That means that he's getting involved on the boards. Donovan Mitchell's averaging about 20 points per game, which I expect to go up. But once again, I think they need to move him to point guard at some point in time.
Mm-hmm. And have to reintegrate Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is a great player, but the ball sticks with him. He dribbles a lot. And the other guys got to get used to that. There's less ball movement. Also, Tatum, he's taking advice from Kobe Bryant, who, because ISO game's going to get better. He's going to take easier long twos, maybe, stuff like that. But Tatum really was great last year, playing a kind of team brand offense.
He was very good last year.
And it looks to me like he's gotten away from that a little bit. Now, part of that is Kyrie Irving, as I just mentioned, and Gordon Hayward being reacclimated. Part of it is the other guys around him aren't playing very well. Al Horford is also suffering. He's not the only one.
Once again, the Boston Celtics are suffering from a multitude of riches. They almost have too much. They have too many pretty good to very good players, not enough great players. They have one great player in Kyrie. Everybody else is good, anywhere from pretty good to borderline very good. So they're going to have to get rid of a couple of those guys. So look for that. Look for them to try to package particularly Gordon Hayward and maybe a couple of other players, to try to get Anthony Davis?
So Tatum's going to be great. I think he's going to be a great player. He's already a really good one. He's struggling, and that's more of a team issue to me than a Tatum issue. Donovan Mitchell's interesting to me. Donovan Mitchell, defenses are ready for him now. He's that team's offense. And he's going to have to make adjustments.
Well, he's a part of their offense. They have some other players who could fill it up. Joe Ingles can fill it up when he gets hot, but I understand what you're saying. They don't have any other real explosive scorers other than him. And that's why I think that it would behoove the coach of the Utah Jazz to maybe try to realign their team. They may want to consider making a big trade. I'm not even sure if Utah would be a destination that a top-level free agent, a scorer, a wing would find to be suitable for them. But that's what they need. They need a two who can really stroke it, move Donovan over to the one, and then have Rubio come off the bench.
This is where you separate the wheat from the chaff, right? Like, you see who is actually going to be a great player and who just was a flash in the pan. Now, if you talk to Donovan Mitchell, if you talk to anyone who's ever coached Donovan Mitchell, he is a very bright guy and he has a drive to be great. So I believe, Stephen A., he will make the adjustments. But Donovan Mitchell is basically like a little smaller Dwayne Wade kind of player. And he's going to have to show now, and it sounds like I'm always taking a shot at Carmelo Anthony, that he is Dwayne Wade and not...
No, you're not always taking a shot at Carmelo. You're just telling the truth. It's just that when you tell the truth about Carmelo, you have to take shots because the man can't play anymore.
And not Carmelo right now. He has to show that he can make adjustments and be the focal point of a scorer on a winning or championship caliber team. I think he can do it, but the league has adjusted to him, and now he's got to adjust back. It's a little different when you're not sneaking up on everybody.
Keep your eyes on Melo and where he's going to land. Things are percolating. I'll leave it at that
just
for
looked
now.
at your phone
I'll leave it at that for now.
Now, I wonder why Stephen A. Smith would mention that right when they're talking about a subject pertaining to a Boston Celtic and a Utah Jazz. Most likely, Carmelo Anthony is thinking about trying to sign with the Boston Celtics, and that will correlate with my assertion and the assertion of others in the media who've also put two and two together when it comes to Kyrie's statements that Kyrie might want Carmelo Anthony to land with the Boston Celtics.
What I will say to you is this. Donovan Mitchell's who I'm paying attention to. I'm giving Jason Tatum a pass in this respect. Both of their numbers have dissipated. We recognize that. But I think that Brad Stevens trying to ingratiate Gordon Hayward into things has compromised Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and to a lesser degree Kyrie Irving and others. Because
I agree with that, but once again, Stephen A. Smith, is very obvious to me. It was obvious before the season, and it should be obvious to you that the reason why they're giving Gordon Hayward so much time is because not only are they trying to build up his stamina, but they're trying to build up his stock.
Because even though Kyrie got hurt too, Kyrie got hurt before the playoffs. Gordon Hayward got hurt 5 minutes into his first game as a Boston Celtic. So he really never played with them until this year. And then playing with them, he's restricted, held to 25 minutes per game restriction. I'm going to give Jason Tatum a pass. I think they'll figure it out. I'm worried about Donovan Mitchell in this respect. First of all, Utah has no business losing by 50 points to the Dallas Mavericks. Y'all just didn't show up.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, I'm going to keep it really real with you. For the Utah Jazz to lose by 50 points to the Dallas Mavericks, that tells me that the night before they played the game, they were spending a lot of time in them Dallas strip clubs.
I mean, got obliterated. That's number one.
50
No,
points.
50. Number two, Donovan Mitchell is shooting 41% from the field, 30% from three-point.
Well, Donovan Mitchell is always going to be a volume shooter. Hopefully, for his sake, he can get to the point where he starts to take better shots and his shooting percentage goes up. But if he's going to be their shooting guard, normally he's going to be guarded by players that have some height on him. And it's going to take him a lot of shots to get his points.
Point range. The only thing that we've noticed about Donovan Mitchell this year is when he had that monstrous dunk last week. That's about it. Outside of that, we're not seeing anything from him. I believe in this kid. He was my rookie of the year.
Well, you can't say you're not seeing anything from him. He's averaging 20 a game. I mean, they're talking about him like he's averaging 8 points a game.
The year, I think that he'll get even better. I'm not worried about him, but we got to call it like we see it. The personnel on the Utah Jazz. Understand, there's a difference between knowing how to play and being a big-time player. They have
Explain.
They have a few guys that know how to play the game of basketball. but they're not the guys that, when you're great, Molly, this is what happens in the game of basketball, more so than most other sports. Here's the ball. We know what you're going to do. We know when you're going to do it. We know how you're going to do it.
Do it.
What you're going to do to stop me.
Yep.
You knew what Jordan was going to do. What you going to do to stop him. You know what Kobe's going to do. What you going to do to stop him.
Yeah.
You know what LeBron's going to do. Kevin Durant's going to do. What you going to do to stop him. You know they're coming. What are you going to do to stop him? What I'm saying to you is that he has a bunch of guys around him who know how to move the basketball, cut, share the basketball. Or, they're fundamentally sound. They're good.
Stephen A. Smith, I agree with everything that you're saying. It boils down to this. Can they either execute a trade to bring an explosive wing player onto their team? Can they find somebody in the draft? Or can they get a free agent? And I just don't see them being able to get a free agent who's going to be able to light up the scoreboard. So we'll see what happens with Utah.
Good.
Yeah.
But he has nobody that you can give the ball to and say, you know what, Donovan Mitchell's having an off night. They're keying on him. They're doubling up on him. They're trapping him. They're getting the ball out of his hands. Here, take this ball and take me there. They don't have that.
You know who they need right now?
Not only that, they've been compromised defensively. They're 10th defensively in terms of points allowed, but in terms of their defensive rating, they're 20th out of 30. That's not good. Quinn Snyder, his teams have played better defense than this.
If Gobert cared as much about offense as he does about defense, it's funny because we usually credit the great defenders with really wanting it. And the guys who are just great offensive players, it's like, oh, what's wrong with them? Why don't they want it on defense? But you can make the same argument about Gobert. He can move a little quicker on.
That's certainly not a bad argument to make. And to be quite frank with you, I haven't really thought about that. But that's very, very true. We tend to castigate players who exert more energy on offense. But on defense, we don't spend enough time honing in on players who have not taken the time out to sharpen up their offensive game. Players like a DeAndre Jordan. I mean, every once in a while, he'll be at the epicenter of the ire of the media. They'll ask him, why hasn't he made a concerted effort to diversify his offensive attack, things of that nature. But, yeah, Rudy Gobert, he certainly could add more to what he does or what he brings to the team.
On offense, it wouldn't kill him. He doesn't seem to care about it as much as he cares about his defense. And even though it makes us feel like he's a gritty kind of player, the real gritty player do it on both ends. Interesting about Utah. You know what they're missing?
What?
Gordon Hayward. That's
very true. Great point.
That's like if you took Gordon Hayward off the Celtics right now and put him on Utah, healthy Gordon Hayward. If you took him off the Celtics, put him on Utah, both teams might get better. Both teams might get better.
Agreed.
They are missing a two-way wing who's a real baller. Not Ingles who can play. Not Favors.
They all can play.
They're missing a two-way baller. That's a healthy Gordon Hayward. If Utah had a healthy Gordon Hayward, we'd have to, not aside from the Warriors, you have to really think about that conference right now and where Utah fits in it. But they don't.
I wonder if Utah will consider calling up Boston and offering cash consideration to get Gordon Hayward back.
In a roundabout way, Utah needs what Philadelphia needed and addressed with Jimmy Butler.
That's exactly what they need.
You see, you got guys on Utah who can shoot. They can catch and shoot the basketball. But putting the ball on the floor and actually creating shots for themselves is a bit more difficult. The Sixers had shooters. Silva last year, Saric, Covington catch and shoot. He had 189 last year. But they couldn't put the ball on the floor. When they went against Boston in the playoffs, Boston chased them off the three-point line, dared them to make a shot off the dribble, off of creating their own shot, and they couldn't do it. And the one person who could create shots for others couldn't create shots for himself from the perimeter, and Ben Simmons.
Right.
Well, he could create shots for himself. He just couldn't make them.
So essentially, Utah and Philadelphia, they had similar issues. Philadelphia addressed it with Jimmy Butler. Now they need shooters. Utah's got some shooters, but need somebody that can put the ball on the floor.
You're right.
We're out of time, but they play each other. Sixers and Jazz, that's Friday night. And on our air, we've got Celtics Raptors, which is going to be a tremendous game on ESPN Friday night.
That is going to be a great matchup. It's going to be a litmus test for both teams.
Everyone knows stop Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Now what's Mitchell going to do?
Yeah.
Well, the real question is, what is Quinn Snyder going to do? Because he's the one who has to solve that problem. Donovan Mitchell's a second-year player who, in my view, is playing out of position.
All right.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see how things develop for both Jason Tatum and Donovan Mitchell. I do think that they're both going to be able to transcend whatever little bump in the road they're going through right now. So peace.